Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever and wherever you are. This is Coach Lee, and we're working on speech anxiety, and we're talking with Ethan. Ethan is 26. He's an orthopedic surgery resident. He lives in the U.S. Um, he has a speech issue. He says he's only appears disabled about 3% of the time, which is very, very small percentage. And he says 95% of those are blocks. And I would call it a classic case of very infrequent but severe stuttering. He had therapy as a child, but it wasn't helpful. So I'll ask you a few questions now. What have you done since when did you discover us? And what have you done to improve your speech since you discovered us?
So I discovered you guys actually probably 3 to 4 months ago. Um, I had a really hard time with my speech. I just started orthopedic surgery residency back in July, and the transition of becoming a doctor is a lot more responsibility for a medical student. To a physician is a tough transition. There's just a lot more responsibility. You have to explain things to people all the time. There's a lot of high pressure communication. And so with that, it's hard. And I had a particular annoying circumstance. This kind of happens to me, I'd say, you know, I don't know, every few weeks. It's very cyclical in my life where I have a period of time where I'm doing super well in my speech. I'm not really thinking about it. I'm communicating pretty effortlessly, I would say. I'm very relational. And then I'll just hit some blocks. And usually it's because of pressure or having to speak in a certain allotted amount of time um, or just not feeling confident or things like that. And but my big issue is um, when I block and when I have issues, I beat myself up so bad and I spiral. And then I go into, this kind of period of time where I just have a lot harder time with speaking. But anyway, so that happened to me like 3, 4 months ago, and I've kind of been at my wit's end because I've read so much on my philosophy about speech has been how can I not just escape stuttering and blocking, but how can I actually become an excellent speaker? And that's always
It
been my
should be.
mindset.
That's appropriate.
Right, right. And so so my wife showed me your resources and I started to read your book and your book resonated with me like absolutely like crazy because everything about what you said, which has to do with the fact that, you know, stuttering is not just it's everything that happens in the mind that is so much more damaging than actually what people perceive as what's happening, right? Because people look at me and they're like, "Oh, you don't stutter, you communicate great the vast majority of the time." But then when I have an issue and, maybe I'm choppy or blocky, like, man, like it is so emotionally challenging for me. And I think that has to do with my pride because I'm a perfectionist and I care about what people think too much. And so with those two things. So anyway, long story short, that's how I got introduced to your program. And ever since then, I got both the website and the app. I've been doing the mind treatments. I did them consistently for about a month. I've been doing the best that I can. I just worked 100 hours last week. I was up all night working. I'm doing my best with staying on top of all that stuff, but I'm just working so much. It's challenging um, to to do the hour of reading out loud, which I enjoy doing, and I'm doing the best I can with it. So anyway, but that's kind of where I'm at. Sorry, I was long-winded.
No, that's great. I'm putting up just a couple of notes here. Would you describe to us when was the last time that you feel as though, if any, that you humiliated yourself with your speech? Have you ever done that? And if so, when was the last time?
I mean, I would say the last time was yesterday, honestly. I mean, it's so the last couple weeks have been harder for me for whatever reason. I think it's because I just started back on the orthopedic service and I have been working a lot and I've
Explain
been
it. Explain this event in as much
Okay.
detail as you can that occurred yesterday. Put us in the situation. Help us understand your problem.
Yeah. So the situation was at morning report, which is something that we do every day where we discuss all of the um, patients on our service. One of my co-residents asked me a question about a patient, and he was clearly a little bit worked up about it and kind of confrontational about it, and kind of wanted, like, clearly wanted an answer very quickly. And I, in those situations, I think when I perceive sort of a threat um, type thing, I can kind of almost shut down a little bit. So um, yeah, I guess to go into detail, I just thought about my speech a lot more. I thought about, oh, don't mess up, don't
What
look
would
weak.
I have noticed? Anything?
Uh, yeah, I think you would have noticed that that I didn't respond right away. Um, that I was choppy in my response, and ultimately, what I wanted to say did not was not verbalized. And now I was able to communicate decently enough, and um, but I
Would you
think.
call it long silences?
Yeah, I would call it long silences, but also it's like there's a lot of times when I'm thinking of a word, not right now necessarily, but when I do block, it's like, oh, that word for some reason I'm thinking about it, and then I feel that sort of block sensation coming where I feel this sort of tightening in my chest, and and then usually I go around the word. So, usually I'll say it a different way, like say the phrase a different way, or I'll say a different word. Or I'll kind of do what you recommended, like or like a little bit of a noise leading up to the word. I've been trying to do that more. I don't know. It just the biggest thing is that it leads to a lack of confidence for me. Like internally, the way I interpret it is I'm very severe on myself, and I think that's one of the biggest issues. Not even the fact that my speech isn't awful. I mean, it's not, but when I do have lapses, I have unfortunately over the years, ever since I began with this issue, which was back, when I was well, like 10 to 12 ish. I've just, recited this narrative in my head that any perceived flaw, I just focus on, and nobody else does, which I don't think, but I do. And then it causes me to get less and less confident and more choppy versus just letting it go and just being fluent, like I am with you right now. Like I don't feel pressure right now. I'm not, this is normally how I converse with people, I would say. But it's in situations like authority figures tend to be an issue. Um, Actually, my family tends to be a little bit of an issue sometimes because none of them have any issues with speech. And my dad's a great speaker. I've always looked up to him in that. And I felt like I grew up in this family. I love my family, but I had this issue with stuttering and nobody else understood what I was going through. And nobody else really tried to really, from what I thought, really help me in it and sort of like swept it under the rug. And so whenever I actually go back around my family and parents, I tend to stumble more. Um, for whatever reason. So I hope that helps a little bit.
It does, and it's typical. It's right down the middle. Look,
Okay.
it's. I was just saying to somebody else that if you want to get good at tennis, you don't do it on the bench, you do it playing tennis. And for you to get comfortable under pressure, you need to gradually speak more and more under pressure. You are doing the right things. You're trying to, you've read the book, you're trying to apply those methods. You are applying them successfully. And that's the key. And over time, as long as you don't have humiliating speech incidents, where you appear disabled and you know that the listener views you as that, as long as you avoid those situations, but the more you speak without having those humiliating incidents, the less the problem becomes steadily until there is no problem. In an ideal world, and you do want to tell yourself that you love to speak, especially under pressure, to groups and strangers and authorities, and these are your favorites, the phone and so forth. You want to repeat those sayings and your affirmations on a regular basis. You're using your mind training, and that's something that hopefully you'll do the rest of your life. I still do it, and I haven't worked on speech in a half a century. I don't need it for that, but I need it for the rest of my life. So mind training is key. But you're doing all the right things. You simply need to do more of them. And I mean, the more you do, the faster you'll conquer the problem, provided you don't allow yourself to appear speech disabled anywhere, anytime, with anybody, for any reason. No exceptions, period. So it's a question of play tennis. You want to get good at tennis? Play tennis. Hit it against the backboard. Find an opponent. Play some practice matches. Play some games. Keep playing the game but you've got to keep control. You've got to speak slowly, and you've got to think about passion of what you say. You want to sell what you have to say. When you speak, you don't want to be thinking words ever. I
Right.
never think a word per se. I think thoughts and how I can say them like I mean it. That's the key. It's passion. How can you speak and be more compelling, more interesting, more challenging? It has nothing to do with words. It has to do
Right.
with thoughts and how you say them.
I, yeah,
All the
no,
time. Keep your mind. Evil cannot enter a mind already full. When you keep your mind, a metaphysician wrote that, and when you keep your mind full of how can you speak in a more compelling, interesting, and stimulating and appealing way, you'll have no problem with your speech, and it will get better by the day. You're using the methods, you're not wiping out. If you were having any humiliating experiences, that takes you way back. It takes you out of the game. It benches you.
I know, and I feel like I've been having those the last couple of weeks a little bit more. Um,
They
like
must be avoided.
how do I, so that's my question. Like I know, you emphasize crutches and stuff. I struggle a little bit with this because sometimes I feel like when I focus more on my speech sometimes gets a little bit worse because I feel like I'm
You're
concentrating
not
on it more.
focusing on your speech. You're
Okay.
focusing on being compelling.
Mm,
It's the way you speak. I'm not thinking about words, no. I'm thinking about being convincing. Speak to me like you mean it. Tell me something that you really mean. What's close to your heart? What can you share with us? Tell us a story about yourself and make it compelling. Go ahead.
okay. Well, this is important to me. The reason why I want to become an excellent speaker, and I've always, and I know stuttering and this path that I have with this issue is going to be a blessing. And that's one of the best things about your book is that you talk about how stuttering actually can be converted into one of your biggest blessings. And is a message that resonates entirely with me because that's been with me my entire life. When I speak with people, connect with people, engage with people, and when I am teaching and sharing a message of hope with people and encouragement, that's when I feel the most fulfilled. And that is what drives me to work so hard on this and always has I because those moments of connection are the most stimulating, beautiful thing I can ever and I've ever really experienced in my life. It's like the most positive emotion comes in those moments, and so it's worth it for me to go through the difficulty, the challenge, the uncomfortability, the putting myself out there and risking failing. Um, it's worth it to me in that. And so that's something that I would say
How do
I'm
you define
passionate.
failing?
Yeah, see, this is that's a great question. I'm honestly, I think one of the biggest limitations that I have in my mindset has been around like the fear of failure and the fear of what people think of me. I've always been like really afraid of if I think about words, it's usually in relation to, oh, I don't want to mess up because I don't want people's perception of me to be perceived as weak or
That
perceived
that
as
that is
stupid.
classic stuttering thinking. It
Yeah,
doesn't just result in stuttering, but it certainly is a part of stuttering for most people. So what you just described is a typical foundation for stuttering
yeah.
worldwide. 80 million people have done the same thing you've done that we know of. There's probably 160 million. So in any event, go ahead.
Yeah, so, there's just a lot of anxiety, honestly, around it and around being unmasked because like I said, many people don't know that I stutter or that I have stuttered or that there's situations where I do block or and so I feel like I'm always trying to hide this side of me and it's really emotionally exhausting because that's what's on my mind instead of like what we're talking about, which is how can I be more engaging? How can I connect? How can I
Exactly.
positively impact this person? And I know that's the right mindset. It's just challenging. It's challenging to fight
Ethan,
to fight.
one of the things you've got to accept is that 99% of the people on the planet have had some noteworthy degree of your problem. 99% of them. Everybody worries, if they're normal, about what other people think. We're back to being in the wilderness, fear, fight, or flight. When you encounter a stranger in the jungle, 50,000 years ago, you were afraid. And did you fight or did you were afraid? Did you fight or did you flee? And that's what our psyches taught us to do. If it's a big predator, you flee. If it's something that you can conquer, you tend to conquer. That's the wilderness for you. That's the syndrome that's going on every time you encounter a new person. We have hundreds of thousands of years of that kind of thinking. So, but the truth is, everybody's in the same boat you are. Virtually everybody's in the same boat, and they're going through the same thing to a different degree. Some of them are older and they're immune to it finally, or they realize nothing comes of it, and so it's wasted effort. And you start thinking about, what can you share? What can you do to help this person or this situation? Think about it in an optimistic, opportunistic situation, not in one of fear. You have zero to fear. What is it Roosevelt said? We have nothing to fear but fear itself. It's a good line, and it's true. You have nothing to fear from other people. Well, once in a great while, someone's holding a gun, they want your wallet. You do, but this is pretty rare. Most of the time, they're just people like you. They're trying to get along. Your goal is to be as helpful and as positive, as constructive as you can be. You're doing your best to do your best all the time. You have nothing to fear. Sometimes you'll succeed, sometimes you'll fail. It's okay. Life goes on. You keep trying, you keep getting in a batter's box. Nobody bats 1,000. 300 is a great average. 300. 3 out of 10.
Mm,
It's good in life. It's good
mm,
in baseball. You'd be in the Hall of Fame. You break 300 for a lifetime. You'd be in the Hall of Fame. Same thing with speech, same thing with your job, same thing with your relationships. It's all the same. You're in control. You're doing your best. The chips will fall where they may. You get smarter. You do better. You learn and you improve. And your best is always, you got to say, most of the time, I'm going to achieve my reasonable goals. You're not going to grow wings and fly like an eagle, but you can do the things you're trying to do. And I can do the things I'm trying to do. Relax. We're all in the same boat. Everybody you meet has the same stuff going on. Some people wear a face of confidence and whatever, but it's a face. They got the same problems. Relax. Do your best. It's going to work out. You're going to be fine. And you're at an age, 18 to 35, the years of greatest stuttering. I know that because that were my greatest years. But it's unnecessary. Slow down your speech. Practice reading aloud with feeling. When I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. You're worried about things you can't control. Forget it.
Hmm.
Worry about what you can control. Your thinking, your actions, your words. That's all there is to it. You'll never be perfect, but you're going to be fine. Just fine. It'll all work out. What do you think?
Thank you for those words. Yeah, no, it's so true. Um, yeah, that's really good insight. I liked what you said about no one bats 1,000. Like to be in the Hall of Fame, it's you're hitting 300 and that's okay. And you
Exactly.
take you take a swing and sometimes you miss, and that's okay. Get up and
Exactly.
take the next swing. And I think that's a good mindset because taking the next swing, you're not taking if you miss the best batters, the best basketball players, the best athletes, the best of all these people are the ones that every single time, even if they miss the shot or miss the hit, they still show up the same way the next time. And because they know that they can't lose anything, like they're just, because life is not about the outcomes, it's about the journey, it's about the passion, it's about showing up. Like you said, it's about, how can I just do my best and give the rest, in my opinion, to God. I'm a believer and
Exactly.
I believe God works all things for my good. Now it's just about embodying that. So that's a really good, really, really helpful. Thank you, Lee.
Well, it's my pleasure. You know, the last humiliating experience you had again, you said you had a humiliating one yesterday or something very frequent, very recent. Didn't you say that?
Yeah. And I even see my error even now as we're talking because yesterday I didn't show up like we're talking about. I showed up from a place of fear and not, allowing sort of the thoughts in my head, obviously not controlling my thoughts, but not showing up confidently and passionately, but instead just trying to self-protect. And that's what I need to just think about, and continue to practice.
Also, when you're batting in baseball, I mean, the goal, of course, you'd like to hit a home run every time you're up. But if you hit a triple, that's really good too. So's a double. And a nice clean single to the outfield is good too. Even when you just chip the ball a little bit and hit a dribbler back to the mound, but you beat the throw to first base, that's a hit too, probably. So then they're not all hits. Sometimes you strike out or pop up or hit a vicious line drive and they catch it. But you get your share from just taking swings. When I was in high school, I had the worst batting average on my team, and it was third in the state of Pennsylvania, that team. We had good hitters. And state of Missouri, pardon me. And when I went to college, I eventually had the best batting average on the team. I kept getting better. I wasn't a natural. I didn't have the ability that a lot of those guys did. But I kept practicing. I got a bat, a wooden bat, and I drilled a hole in the end of it, and I loaded it with steel, and the bat was real heavy, and I carried it around with me all the time, and I would be swinging at tree limbs and leaves and practicing constantly, hitting at all different heights, and with this real heavy bat. And when I got to the game, regular bat felt so light, so easy to control. I got it around early and I started hitting the ball way out in front of the plate. And I got a lot of hits. I got hits all over the place. And it was just because I was the worst hitter on the team. But I carried the bat around and I became the best hitter on the team in terms of batting average. It took me a while, but I did. You can do the same thing. Just carry
Mhm.
the bat around. Keep swinging. Your mind training, keep doing it. You're reading aloud. Pick things that are even more interesting and that are more fun.
How would you recommend that I, keep carrying the bat? Um, so I totally agree. I'm gonna read out loud, you know, I'm gonna do my mind training as best as I can. But like when I'm working like 100-hour weeks, what would be some of your recommendations? I mean, I talk every day, all day, for my profession, obviously with patients and coworkers and such. Um, but I will say, and I need to change my mindset around this. Speech still is, it's a big stressor for me, and I just want to turn it into something that I think about optimistically and like, oh, I get to speak today, or oh, I get to have this conversation, or
Well, that's what you'll
oh,
say to
that's a
yourself when you know you've got something coming up. I love to talk to groups. I love to do job interviews. I love to be on the phone. I love to talk to my authorities. I can't wait to talk to my authorities. I love to do that. And you're going to speak slowly and with feeling. You're going to be expressive. You're going to be thinking about that the whole time. And practice reading aloud. I just sent you my reading document. You may have it from before. I don't know. But I sent it to you again, or at least for the first time. And it has a lot of things to read aloud that are good practice. I'll tell you one. Go to open that document, which I just sent you, and go to
okay.
page 6.
Page 6.
Yeah.
Silent words. Yeah, I've read this one before. It's good.
Yeah. So this was posted by a girl who she was a stutterer and she asked her uncle to write something for National Stuttering Day. And he wrote this poem, a beautiful poem, and she posted it on National Stuttering Day. I forget which journal it was in, and it was just so lovely that I saved it. So, and this uncle wrote it for his niece. So why don't you read this to us? But I want you to make us believe it.
I'm gonna write that note down quick. When you read, make people believe it.
Exactly.
Okay. Behind the smiles, behind the tears, are silent words that no one hears. Conversations well thought out, but censored through my pain and doubt. So much of who is really me that most will never chance to see.
Take it
From
easy.
thought,
Take it easy. This is not a
okay.
race.
From thoughts to words, there's compromise, and speech becomes an enterprise. Stuttering is not my choice. I really have a lovely voice, but words too often bond with dread, and then so much is left unsaid. I know quite well what I would say, though it may not always sound that way. If you judge me by my speech alone, the loss you face will be your own. There's much more to me than meets the ear. There's someone special living here.
That was very well done. Really, it was. You got a very high mark there.
Thank you.
I'll read it just to show a different slant on the same words, on the same thoughts. Behind the smiles, behind the tears, are silent words that no one hears. Conversations well thought out, but censored through my pain and doubt. So much of who is really me that most will never chance to see. From thoughts to words, there's compromise, and speech becomes an enterprise. Stuttering is not my choice. I really have a lovely voice, but words too often bond with dread, and then so much is left unsaid. I know quite well what I would say, though it may not always sound that way. If you judge me by my speech alone, the loss you face will be your own. There's much more to me than meets the ear. There's someone special living here, just a different slant. It's a game. It's a game to convey your thoughts. It's not about words. The same words or different words often accomplish the same thing. It's how you say them. You think about how can I say this with more feeling? That's the game. It's not about words. Whether it's a stranger, an authority, a group, all the better. Say it like you mean it, man. You can do it when you think thoughts and how to say them. I remember one guy that I coached years ago. He stuttered on almost every word, stuttered all his life, and he was around 30. And we got him fluent. And he's a realtor, and he was at a meeting about a property with a half a dozen other people. They were all discussing this property. When the meeting was over, one of the guys came over to him and said, I can only say that you speak so well. I couldn't believe how well you speak. Now, this is six people sitting around talking for an hour, and this fellow singles him out, the stutterer, and said, "Oh, you speak so well, man." Made his day, of course, his week, whatever. He still speaks well. You can get better all the time. Reading aloud will help you become a more effective speaker. It's a game. Have fun with it. Be over the top the way you say it. Say it like you mean it. You can do it, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. I think I I love having these conversations, and I think I think one thing I need to continue to practice doing is giving myself grace to be expressive. And and sometimes, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, sometimes in the medical surgical field, it's a bunch of type A robotic brainiac people that only prioritize efficiency and effectiveness and follow through. It's not as much this artistry. I mean, it is artistry, don't get me wrong. Like the actual art of surgery is, but the communication tends to be very like robotic. And I think sometimes I feel pressured. I shouldn't, but I do feel pressured to conform my speaking to kind of what my colleagues tend to do, and that's the wrong way of thinking. I call myself out on that because I really do believe that this form of speaking, we're fluctuating the voice and whispering and and conveying emotion. Like this is truly what good communication is. And also, I think what makes the best surgeons and the best clinicians as well are those that speak with that kind of engaging communication for their patients and for their coworkers. So it's a freeing message. So thank you. I just need to continue to embrace that and not run away from it in my work.
You know what I like about medicine? If you can think of yourself as a healer, because that's what you are. You're a healer, and that's a
Mhm.
wonderful thing. And you do it with as much love as you can muster all the time. You're healing. Isn't that wonderful? It's a wonderful thing. Jesus was a healer. It's a great career, and you're going to have fun with it. And your speech will get better and better. The better it is, the more you'll heal. Your speech can be healing.
That's cool. That's so true, though. Speech has a huge part in healing. I've seen it. Like when I, talk to my patients with passion and with peace, like a peacefulness and a tenderness and love. Like I've gotten those compliments a lot when I'm at my best, when I am communicating with a level of passion and engagement instead of kind of the robotic standard that everybody does. So that's good. I need to give myself grace to be exceptional in my speech, not just the status quo or be able to blend in. I think my problem is I want to maybe blend in a little bit too much versus stand out for a good reason, you know, and let that be okay.
It's not just what you say, it's how you say it that makes it most helpful. And you want to be reassuring, comforting. In most cases, if you do this and this and this, you're going to handle this problem. You can do it. Most do. Or if it's not most, it's many. And if it's not many, it's a significant number or some. But you're positive all the time because healing is so mental. I'm sure you would agree. In many cases, healing is mental as much as physical.
Amen. I would agree 100%. Yep.
So you got a lot of angles to develop, and your speech is important. But you think about it in terms of how you say it, not the specific words. Don't worry about them. You want to make them feel better, with or without a pill or a placebo or whatever, by your confidence. On that happy note, I'm going to let you go
Well, thank you
so you don't
for
get
for
too
making time
old.
for me. I appreciate it.
Well, I always enjoy doing it.